Hey everyone, and welcome to the Kubeflow community meeting for Tuesday and Wednesday, the 25th and 6th of January, 2022. We've got a pretty short list of things today, so hopefully it'll be quick. We're just going to do a welcome, starting to try to do this every time where we have hopefully lots of new faces in the community, so we can talk to people and see what their story is. We'll introduce. So we'll go over what's been happening with 1.5 and its release. There's just a few things I want to highlight to the people who have approvers. And also we would need to discuss when the new date is going to be for this, because Google expressed they couldn't do it. So I assume we'll push it back by some period of time, but we'll just figure out what that date needs to be for removing docs, distribution owned docs. Another way to say vendor owned docs from kubeflow.org. Okay, cool. So, does anyone want to introduce themselves, or I'll stop sharing for a second, but does anyone want to introduce themselves so they can say hi to the community? If you're a new face or if you haven't been here many times, then that's fine as well. Otherwise, thanks everyone for coming. So now 1.5, do we have an update from the release person or someone who was in the release team meeting? Because while I am in the release team, I am unable to attend because they were at 4 a.m. my time. And ironically, I had another meeting at that time, this time. I was at the SIG apps meeting because I'm proposing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Josh, take it away.
Okay, yeah. This is what I wrote down, and I think Amber was there, so maybe she can keep me honest as well. I believe that the feature freeze and the first cut of the first RC0 should be like the feature freeze, I think, started yesterday. The RC0, I believe, will start be available tomorrow, is what I had heard. Does that sound about right to you?
What was the name
Amber?
of that second date? Sorry.
The RC0 should be 1/26. And then I guess there will be.
Is there a sort of a target? I mean, obviously there's ... there for the other dates, but like, what is the sort of overall target?
Oh, the overall date will then there'll be manifest testing until the 16th. Then distribution testing starts the 16th to the March 8th.
16th.
And then the release date should be March 9th.
So is this until the 16th, to be clear?
Yeah. Distribution testing starts on the 16th and goes to March 8th. So is those end on the same date or not? I don't know. This is what I wrote down. I'm sure the tracking issue has it.
Also, I just realized that must be February. Okay. And then March 8th.
Yeah.
Oh, 8. And then what was for the manifest testing? What was the range of that one?
January
through the 8th. Sorry, Josh.
Cool.
20, yeah, I think it's the 26th through February 16th.
Oh, like
January 26th. Yeah. Yeah, I think the manifest is January. You got it as February 26th.
Oh, yep, I do.
Okay. And then the other kind of interesting, I think on the dependencies, we're looking at probably Kubeflow 1.20, hopefully customize 4.0, cert manager 1.5, and Istio 1.11.
Okay, but those are not necessarily the versions which will be minimums, right? The things that matter most to distributions are minimums and maximums. Do we agree on those?
Not at this point. This is what it looks as though we'll be testing. We'll be trying to test with those versions right now. I think we'll probably determine how close we get to 122 and how far back it's supported in the next meeting. We did not really press on what's the, if you want to call, like, are we going to support 119? We didn't discuss if that would be the minimum or not, but that's a to do, right?
These things need to be decided. I don't really care what version is being shipped in the manifest repo. It's more like what version can you use, with the apps that we know. Like, so, because obviously each component may or may not have a hard dependency on specific resource versions from these apps. Like,
And because of some upgrade challenges with the AWS test infra, that is part of the ambiguity right now, and they're trying to work through that right now. So
cool. Okay. And so that meeting, I saw that there was a few notes from Kimonos. Is there anything you want to highlight from here other than those dates? And other than those dates?
I think we're trying to make good progress on both, nailing down the dates, nailing down who's, from each of the working groups, who's kind of the point of contacts. And I think that's good. The dependencies. The one thing that we may want to do a little bit stronger job on is identifying the distribution contacts, because I think we're going to see more distributions. So, you have people like Nutanix who have, kind of not totally new, but they're here. And obviously now I've even heard people like Oracle who likely are going to start doing some testing. So I think that making sure that we're capturing all the distribution contacts and kind of helping them along would be good. Probably the one that sits out the outstanding is we probably need to work on Azure a little bit. And since David, as Aronchek left Azure, we probably need to reach out to those folks and make sure that they're aware that we're moving to the next release, right? Or we're providing support to move things. Go ahead.
Well, we can't I think it's really important that we can't be doing the work of vendors for them. Like, if they want to come to the party, they can come to the party or not. But like, I agree, we can contact them and say it's your distribution is in an unacceptable state, because it is. But like, so either get rid of it or or start supporting it. One of those two things. Either way, it'll be delisting from our website anyway. And in the same way that it's if any distribution, this is what we're talking about with the docs before. But like, then eventually it will even be delisted from the list of distributions if it doesn't meet the quality standards set up by the validation proposal from James, if he wants to talk to that at some point, when that's actually going to be implemented. I'd love to actually get an update on that. I'm going to write that as well, actually. Update from James on like certified distributions. Cool.
I think those are all good directional, strategic directions and aspirational goals. And, we just want to help people do the,
people will come to the party. Like, people are interested in using Kubeflow on these platforms, and these cloud vendors have a strong incentive to make money using it. So and it makes no sense for us to kind of just coddle them along in some sense.
I don't know about that. I think that in any community, like, you've got to be inclusive, and you've got to, especially if people are new or organizations are quote unquote sort of new, then we do have an obligation to sort of help them along.
I didn't say we.
I don't think you just wash your hands and go, sorry, if you don't know where the invitation's at or you don't know. I would be careful with that broad sweeping statement. That's all I'm saying.
I just think the minimum that's required is they have to actually show up, right? We can't do anything if they don't actually show up to meetings and they don't actively involve themselves in any aspect of the community. Like, I don't think it's worth the time in the community to seek out these people.
Maybe they don't know, or maybe there's a new person. I don't know. I'm just saying that having been someone new and representing organizations and other communities and stuff like that, sometimes you just don't know. And so we need to first make sure that they know, and whoever the point of contact is, maybe it changed, maybe, you know, something happened from the time they entered the community to today. But we really, I think we really need to make sure that, especially if they're new or maybe haven't been around a while, we kind of need, we're not coddling them, we're making sure they have access to everything that they need.
The simplest solution, I think, is just to create a contact form that's owned by the project steering group on kubeflow.org that people can put in their contacts if they're if they want to be, if they're a significant enough, you know, vendor that they want to actually contribute resources and time, and the project steering group can coordinate that. I think that's probably the best step moving forward there. And then it becomes like a single point on the website, which is if you're a new vendor and you don't know what's going on, there's a kind of a shortcut entry point into the community, potentially. That seems like a, you know,
I think that having a contact or something like that is good. I'm not sure it's the steering committee, but we can make a group
to receive those.
Somebody needs to probably have that responsibility. So good points.
I think, you know, Kubernetes has a developer experience SIG. We could have something similar to that. Oh, something, you know what I mean? Like, I forget what it's called, contributor experience. I don't honestly forgot the name of the SIG, but like we could create a group of people whose entire job it is to onboard people into the community.
Yeah.
Honestly, isn't a bad idea. Like, possibly form WG to onboard new community members and make dev contrib experience better. Okay, I think that's a pretty solid step we can take there. If we can find some people willing to take on that sort of role as a sort of community guide, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Then we can set up a form on the website in a day even, and have those people be receiving the end of those. That solves the problem. Doesn't it? Okay. So yeah, we've already talked about the recap of the release team meeting. Wasn't much there. There was something that I don't mean to hammer anything. I just saw that you got pinged, Josh, and I just put it on the list about some sort of blog post doc. I don't know.
Right. So every release in, 6 or whatever, by March 8th, we're going to need now to come out with a blog post and perhaps a video recap of 1.5. And I think what the evolution will likely be, there'll be multiple blog posts, but there'll be a central blog post just on 1.5, and then maybe each of the releases will do, each of the working groups and maybe each of the distributions, whichever ones are excited about it, might do their own blog posts or whatever. But the idea here was we wanted to document how to get that community shorter blog post and video presentation on 1.5 out. So we've documented that process. We've documented the tools, how long it takes, the steps, all that other stuff. And now we're going to create a PR and submit it for review. And I've just asked Shannon to kind of help me. We've got the content. We just need to put it into the PR format and upload it and make sure that everything works correctly, and then get final comments and post it.
This is for like an official release blog?
Yes, this would be just like we've done on 1.3, 1.4.
Anything you want to need help with there to get that out the door?
I'll see if Shannon doesn't have the cycles. Basically, I've got to take what's in the Google Doc, move it over into Markdown, put it into a pull request, but also make sure that it's posted in the right place on the blog, on the kubeflow.org spot. I think it's probably in releases, right? Probably somewhere in the release.
I'm sorry, are we talking about the website? Are we talking about blogs?
Yeah, well, these are the community process to deliver the blogs.
Okay, I see, because there is obviously the blog. which I'm
Right.
assuming is what you're talking about here, right? This?
Right. How do you produce that blog Kubeflow 1.4 release lays foundation? How did we do that? Right. What are the steps?
So has Shannon been working with the various people who have done major upgrades for 1.5 and written about those things? Because I imagine that's mostly what it would be containing, right? Information about new
This
features.
is just a process on how you actually do it.
I see.
And then the actual content, hopefully with the updated roadmap that we're working to publish here shortly, that will be the initial themes. And then we'll pull, some of the features out from the themes, the highlighted features, elastic training or notebook calling, or some of the things from HP tuning. And we'll highlight a few of those, and those will be the dangling sizzle on the steak. And then hopefully the short blog post allows people to go and look for more information about the release.
At some point, we should really do like the KEP thing, not only because it just creates better software, like Kubernetes enhancement, we could do Kubeflow enhancement proposal, where you have to actually write out and any sort of actually use pretty much the idea of a KEP in Kubernetes world is anything that would get a blog post written about it gets a KEP before it gets implemented. And it's kind of like a full review of how it's going to be done, what it is, why it's important. And then that just naturally turns into a blog post about the object, whatever that happens to be. We're not obviously at that level of maturity, and we're also kind of multiple projects as the Kubeflow project, but I still think as a whole, we could still encourage working groups to establish their own proposal processes, or we could potentially just force everyone to use a single one, just so that there is some consistency for user experience changing features. That's kind of the thought process. Because there's lots of people out there who have no pathway right now to get features added to Kubeflow. They have ideas, they have things they want to do. They even may have code they can do. But because there's not really a clear process to change something central about Kubeflow, we don't really have a form to discuss that, or a structured way of saying, oh no, I want to get rid of the notebook operator or something. You know what I mean? I think it's not needed or whatever. I'm just making a random idea, but something to that level of significance is we should have some sort of an enhancement proposal structure. The reason I'm thinking about it is because I've been going through it for Kubernetes for a pretty big change there, and it's just useful. It's very powerful. I think it creates structure, it forces review, and it also just creates documentation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's good. That's good direction. Just one other thing in the release team, not to get too OCD or off track, but Siraj actually said, since we have breaking changes, especially around KF serving and KServe, he thought one proposal was that we should think about changing the release to 2.0. I probably don't think we should do that, but he proposed it and other people said, let's discuss it. So in kind of that realm of, hey, we want to do changes and how do we highlight these changes and other things, I think one of these things when we have, at least let's just try the basic blocking and tackling, when we have things that are, breaking changes like we're going to have with HP tuning, where we've got the new metrics collector or whatever, we probably should highlight that, or the emissary executor or other things, which we've been doing. But I think we just need to make sure that those breaking changes get some type of special notice as well as we promote 1.5.
And the way Kubernetes handles this is they have this kind of master change log for operators that says these are the breaking changes. I could find it, but it takes a minute to Google. But it's on a GitHub Markdown, and it just lists out, if you are on this version, here's what's changed to the next version. But in our case, obviously the way the actual name for Kubeflow's release, I don't think needs to be reflective of any breaking changes. It's just a name. It could be called, we could give it a name super fast ML, and then dogs are nice as the next release name. 1.5, 1.6 is kind of irrelevant. I think that name is just a name, and it's not reflective of a semantic versioning. Whereas the names of the version names within Kubeflow, pipeline 0.8 point whatever, is semantically versioned according to their own standards, as far as I'm aware, right? Whereas the overall project doesn't need to be.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
just like Kubernetes.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it might be simpler if we did stop naming them 1.x, which is what I think Canonical proposed a while ago, to kind of go to the year quarter release name where you've got like 20. So this release would be 2204 if we release it in March. You know, and then it also highlights how old your release is as well.
Yeah, those are very good points. And Amber, I think you're capturing some of this. I think we should take those back to the manifest and the release teams, discuss them more extensively, along with some of the other good comments that you've provided. And let's see if we can try to incorporate those. There's a lot of good ideas here. And I think for us, we need to pick off the pieces, then try to, document what we're going to do, discuss, document, and then try to implement. So I think that's all this good stuff you're capturing here.
Cool. And I just wanted to highlight this very small PR to James. Well, there is a slight issue, which is that there isn't that many people left here, but this team within ACLs gives right access to the website, and these people are no longer involved in the project. So it's very dangerous to have them having right access to the website, repo that is. And so I'd prefer if we just kind of cleared it back to the Googlers who are actually approving the PRs that affect the whole website anyway. So there's no risk to them additionally having this role. If you're there, James.
Sure, I can take a look. Thank you.
Cool. Oh yes. Does anyone have any? So this certified distribution thing, I saw it. It happened a while ago. What's happened since? Have we made any progress there on the Google end that has to actually implement it? I'm just finding proposals. So this one, conformance program. Sorry. So was James the one managing this? The other James?
Yeah, I'm managing this right now. So last year, I was experimenting with the Sonoboy tool, and which is used in the Kubernetes conformance program, and seems pretty promising. I was able to get some of the Kubeflow pipeline test running in this tool, and have the results reported back by the tool. Also, trying to get internal clarification on how to set up this program. So haven't made a lot of progress on this so far, and partly because just resourcing in Google right now. And
I'm confused. I thought if we're talking about what's actually going to happen, I thought it was here, right? We asked the working groups to nominate tests.
Yeah, so that'll be one of the steps. So right now I'm just testing on the tooling aspect. I'm just trying to see if there's a workable tooling that we could use. I'm trying to see if we can make Kubeflow pipelines or have Kubeflow pipeline integrated with this tooling. And then if it works, then the next step would be to reach out to the other working groups. And
so this is for like the Kubeflow pipelines tests specifically. Is that what we're talking?
I'm just using Kubeflow pipeline tests to try out the tooling that's going to be used for the conformance program.
The tooling, I mean, pipelines is kind of an outlier a little bit in the other Kubeflow apps, right? Because a lot of them are quite UI based, whereas pipelines is quite CRD based.
Well, I think we said for the UI based, components, right? So it could be a self-attestation, right?
Mm-hmm. We still need to get the working groups to actually nominate the tests, don't we?
I'm sorry?
We still need to have the working groups actually decide what tests are important.
Sure, yeah.
At some point, obviously, obviously people are busy right now, but we should definitely be planning to get this at some point, Like,
yeah, so I want to understand in what form factor those tests needs to be, right? So for me to provide the guidance, I need to basically experiment with the tools and see what tools might work for the conformance test. And that's why I've been using Kubeflow pipelines as a test bed.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, I think probably the next step is you're doing that for Kubeflow pipelines, which is great. but we probably need to ask the working groups to at least start thinking about this.
Okay,
So
that's
because
fair.
I think it's otherwise it'll
Once
take.
okay, yeah, I understand. So I think I need to provide some guidance to the working groups on what kind of test they might provide. So far, it looks like it needs to be some kind of containerized test suite that need to provide, and also like the output format of their test, whether it's JUnit or something else. So those are the things that I need to kind of figure out. But yeah.
Cool.
I get your
No,
point.
that's great. And then the very final thing here on this list, which is actually related to this, it's kind of, in my mind, the sequence of implementation will be this will happen, and then this will happen after, so that we can then filter down the list here. So effectively, this proposal is that for a very long time, very long time ago, we agreed that we would remove vendor-owned things from the Kubeflow org. And one of those things happens to be the Kubeflow website. Right now, some but not all distributions host their docs on the website. This is a proposal for these owners of docs to move to their own commercial websites, maybe Amazon.com for Amazon or AWS, whatever, Azure's things, Google's things, wherever they end up choosing to put, or they could just put it on a GitHub repo right next to their distribution. That's fine. We don't really mind. We just want it not to be on kubeflow.org. And the original proposal I put was February 1st because it was many months away at the time, 70 days. But I think there was a bit of time in there. So my question is from Google's end. James mentioned, I think James Lau mentioned that you needed more time to move these docs, and you were one of the things. So we were going to base the new timeline on what you guys needed, so that we could then, set a new date for removing the docs. Do you have any updates on what Google needs, if there's been any internal progress there?
Right. I have been looking for the destination for hosting the Kubeflow on Google Cloud by another site, but we are making progress, but we don't know exactly what time we are able to make that change. Once I have an update, I will let you know.
In kind of your feeling of it, do you think it's more like a 5 months thing or like a 2 month thing?
Yeah, I have no idea. If I have idea, I will let you know. It's a 5 months or 6 months. I don't have an idea yet.
Yeah, it's because at very least we need to start really like maybe putting warnings or something on here, because a lot of these docs are really out of date. Not your ones necessarily. I just mean things like, Azure's ones or other ones like that. Potentially, just so that people, when they come here, don't think, oh, I'm running Azure, click here and like have a really bad experience and then go away from Kubeflow because they have had a terrible experience, rather than realizing it was because this docs are just not maintained.
I think that this is two separate topics.
Yeah, it is. And what I'm saying is they're kind of related. Obviously, removing them all together and moving them elsewhere sorts the problem out as well. But like in the short term, if it's going to take, because the question is, if it's going to take like 2 months for you to get this thing done, which seems unlikely, then we can kind of just ignore it. But if it's going to take like 6 months or longer, we really need to start addressing the problem, or at least one of the problems, which is that users are having bad experiences on Amazon and Azure just because these docs aren't very good, and giving up on Kubeflow as a result.
Does Amazon or Azure?
Well, it's also our project's problem, right?
Yeah. Like if you can put a banner to tell people that like this is the version that this guide is supporting, that at least like people knows they shouldn't use the latest version of Kubeflow with those guides.
Because that information actually is in the installing Kubeflow section. It's just the structure of the website isn't well laid out for handling versions, which is also another reason why we want to move it, so that the vendors can version their distribution and version the docs accordingly, because obviously the version of Kubeflow is not necessarily the version of the distribution. A lot of them might release more frequently or less frequently. So yeah, there might. Anyway, so I just think that there's we've worked on the website a lot. It's a lot better, but there's still some pain here, specifically around how do I actually get started with Kubeflow for users who aren't just applying the default manifests, or if they are, they're still wanting help on their specific platform. So I think, yeah, this is kind of trying to figure out what the best step there is, but I'll think about it. If I can come up with a good proposal, I'll come up with one. But anyway, if anyone has any ideas, please reach out or just raise the proposal yourself. Cool. Has anyone got anything else? Any other distributions want to say that they are going to take a long time as well? Otherwise, it's cool. Any other topics? I think there was that Peritus thing, but I think that guy's not here today. Yeah, he doesn't look like he's here. That looks like it's just going back and forth with Thea anyway, so that's fine. Cool. I can't think of anything else. If no one else has anything, we'll just, I'm happy to leave the floor open for people to discuss whatever they want, or we can close the meeting here. Cool. I'm going to close the recording, but I'll leave the meeting running. Thanks, guys, for coming. Hopefully it's good that we've got some movement happening in the community. Hopefully you can feel the power that we have. We've actually got momentum for the first time in a long time. And I'm very thankful for everyone who's contributing and helping. And it's amazing. It's awesome to see. Thanks, guys.